Hey there, this is Darrell Olson, Jackson Fishing Team. I'm going to tie up, I mentioned in an earlier video about I might need a topwater for Louisiana, so I'm going to tie up one I saw on another YouTube channel from out of Florida. I think it's Space Coast or something like that. What they were calling the sipper fly. It's like a wake bait, not really a popper. It could be maybe like a gurgler, but it's really not that. I think it's more like a wake bait, and you know, they kind of like swim just below the surface, create a big wake, and on there. But anyway, we're gonna tie one up in white gray with a mullet colored head, and we'll show it to you here right now. This here's the sipper. I don't know what I'm going to call it. The mullet, my mullet sipper. I don't know, but that's what I'm going to call it anyway. It uses craft fur, some craft fur brushes, some minnow head, and some big foam. And I did a little video. We'll take a shot into that right about now to show you how I glued the two colors together. This is using one of those Crockett kind of, I don't know, pearl essence type of foam on the bottom to give it a little shine or glimmer. But it's basically 2mm foam on the bottom, and then this is a 6mm. So why don't we go ahead and we'll get tying it, and we'll explain the materials as I go along on there. The hook I'm going to use is a Gamakatsu SL12S saltwater series and a 1/0. It's a 1x short, and I'm going to go ahead and debarb it as I debarb all my hooks. You know, not everybody wants to do that, but it's what I do. I like it. And get that hook into the vise. And since I'm tying white, I'm going to use some white 210 denier. And hopefully I'll have enough to finish this fly off. And we're going to go ahead and start this just back behind the eye of the hook, about an eye width. On there. And then when these guys from Space Coast were tying this, they used a different method to help prevent the craft fur from fouling, and I'll show you what that is. Kind of a neat idea. And I'm going to use some white craft fur. I'm going to take my craft fur scissors, and I'll try to do it here so you can see, and I'm going to kind of make some cuts going across here. And I'm going to try to clear out this heavy bulky material here. You can either pull it out with your fingers, or you can use a comb. Yeah, I'll try to get some more of that out of there. And you might see that the ends are kind of uneven. I'm just going to go ahead and take my craft hair scissors and trim some of this off. And we're going to go ahead and tie this in. Keeping sure the material stays on top. And then what they did to help prevent it is they actually kind of like doing a parapost. They wrapped the cross here like around it 3 or 4 times. I don't know, I haven't really tried the fly yet to see if that really works. That's like 3. And that's a partial 4, and that gets me back tying in this direction. And then I'm just going to lift up this little bit here and try to trim some of this off. Next, I'm going to take 1 strand of pearl crystal flash. And tie 1 strand on each side for like a lateral line on this tail. And then we'll trim that off just longer than the tail. Next we're going to take is some 3-inch EP Craft Fur brush, and I'm using gray and white. And you don't need too much of that on there. And I'm just going to tie it in a little bit. This is already a partial piece. And you're not going to need a lot. We're just going to need about 3 turns of this to complement the white tail, and using this white and gray that way. And this is, I'm going to put 3 turns. That was 1. And then I lost count, so you're going to have to believe me, that's 3. It could be 4. And then you're going to use your wire cutters. Don't use your good scissors, or if you've got bad scissors, you can use those. But I'm going to trim that off. There's a piece of wire in there, and I've still got enough there for probably one more. And then I'm going to brush this out a little bit here to get anything that I couldn't get out when I was brushing it back. Alright, this here is how I'm gluing a Right, I'm gonna make up some what they call a sipper fly. I saw it on YouTube. It's I think Space Coast Fly Fishing or Fly Shop makes them and sells them down there, but I'm gonna make it. But they have like, it's top water for salt water. You probably use it for bass. It's kind of like a minnow pattern on the surface, but it's a popper or it's a slider. You know, it's got a pretty good, creates a pretty good wake, like a walking bait does if you're bait casting or spin fishing with something like similar to that, a wake bait or a spook junior. But I'm gonna use a 6mm tan. I got to glue that, and then glue on I'm going to use a Loco thing. It's kind of, you can see there, it's kind of flashy, maybe that, and that's in tan as well. It's going to be what they would call the accent color, and eventually it'll glue on top there. So you might see it better once when I get tying the fly and all that. I'm going to be using some Loctite spray adhesive and on there, and I'm spraying it in box so I don't get this adhesive all over the place. And then since it's a contact type of thing, I'm gonna let it sit for about a minute, and then I'll sandwich the two together and then put a little weight on them and let them dry, and then we'll get tying this fly to so this will probably be boring. I'll probably speed this part up on there. And I kind of cut these so that they're about the same size, so I don't have to be that critical on I don't know if you can see how shiny that's going to be. That's going to reflect towards the bottom is my idea. And we'll go ahead and put some weight on top of that, like some books and things like that. And anyway, we will when we get tying it, I'll show it off a little bit here, and then we'll explain how we use that into the tying of the sipper. All right. Yeah. Next this is a ½ inch, and I went ½ inch because I'm basing it on the hook gap that way. You know, maybe a little wider if you want, but I went with a hook gap. And then it's 1 inch long. And I'm going to put cut an angle here to help tie it in. And then I'm going to apply a little super glue to the top here. And I'm using the gel type. I'm going to bring this forward a little bit. And then I want the secondary color, in this case the croquet foam, on the bottom, so that way it's on there. And I'm going to kind of push that down, and I'm going to try to position this so that it's kind of centered, so that way it's kind of straight, level, so it doesn't do any funny stuff in the water maybe. I think I need to move it back a little bit. That looks pretty good. Next I'm going to use is some EP 1.5 inch minnow head, and the color I'm using is called Mottled Mullet for the head of my mullet fly on the top. And it's going to take almost that whole strip as you want to make the head. You know, that's all based on that. I'm going to cut some of this wire off right here. And then I'm going to tie that in. And then again, I'm going to brush this back while I'm wrapping it, and I'm going to try to keep it tight wrapped so I can get a full head, because we're going to end up trimming the head a little bit to shape it on there. And after this series, we're going to tie up some delayed harvest trout flies, you know. San Juan worms, egg patterns, something simple. Keep it simple. And that you'll probably find very handy if you're fishing delayed harvest, especially stock trout. They really don't know what bugs are yet. I'm just going to try to pack this in so I get a full head for cutting purposes, trimming, shaping. think this is what makes this fly a little bit expensive, with all this material going in that little spot. And once I got there, I'm going to tie this off, put a couple turns behind it, couple in front, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut that wire. Kind of fold this stuff back. Once I lift that up, I can get my tippet through there. Give it a 4 or 5 turn whip finish. Right there. Now I'm going to comb out, see if I get all this out of here to get any trap fibers out. Might be easier to take it out, and we don't want to cut any of these fibers back here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pull all these fibers up here, and the first cut we're going to make is going to be underneath the hook, and this part you're going to want flat. Take my craft fur scissors, next we're going to kind of pull up the fibers this way. On both sides. And then I'm going to cut like at an angle towards the eye of the hook. And the same on this side. And then we'll see what we got left. Same thing on this side towards the eye of the hook. And then I'm going to grab some finer scissors here and kind of like trim around here a little bit, just to clean up this end a little bit. Okay, and we're going to make it look pretty. We're going to add some eyes, you know, they're probably more or less to catch the angler. Never know. And on there, and I'm using some 8mm eyes. And I'll go ahead and put a couple of them on my hand right here, somewhere right there, just to hold them there. Grab my gel super glue and we'll put one right about in that area. And we're going to try to replicate that on the other side. That's pretty close. What do you think? I think it's pretty close. And then I'm going to put, you know, UV glue on top, but I'm using this Solarez. It's a flex formula. It doesn't get so hard. It still keeps the head pliable on there. And I'm just going to put a little bit on top of that eye and get my back in here, and it might help secure it a little bit more. Who knows? But it's a flexible thing. You know, it's not going to make it rock hard. So we'll shoot that a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. This is a good glue if you're doing craft fur minnows or something, that at least maybe before you even put the eyes on, to shape the head a little bit, and then it's got a harder coating for you to and then put your super glue and the eyes on a little bit. Now I'm looking for my light. And there you have it. The sipper. It's going to be my mullet version of it for Louisiana, and we'll see how it works out in there for some big reds or maybe some speckled trout early in the morning or late in the evening. Right, there it is. I think it'll work in Louisiana on that top. It'll be similar to the Spook Junior maybe. Walking the dog, but that's not what this is for. It's going to create a wake and make a lot of water pressure so the fish will find it and maybe jump on it. Anyway, again, thanks to Space Coast Fly Shop for posting how to tie it. I'm a copycat, so I'm going to give it a try in Louisiana. All right, we'll see you on the water.